And welcome back to our program on this Sunday afternoon. The Showtime Lakers are among the most famous teams in the history of sports. And the man leading them was the great Pat Riley. I had a chance to visit with the former Laker head coach who epitomized what Showtime was all about while bringing four titles here to Los Angeles.
Legends, sponsored by CallJacob.com.
What does it mean to you when people call you a Laker legend?
With that team in the late 80s, and I got to be part of that team, it was their greatness and their incredible showmanship, but not because they were arrogant. It's just their style. And what was created with Showtime in the 80s, if legend comes with that, then I'm part of it. But I was just privileged to be really part of that organization for a long time, and especially that team in the 80s.
Everyone knew what Showtime meant. When you said Showtime, you knew they were talking about the Lakers and you.
Basketball in the 80s began to grow globally. I can remember almost every summer I was heading to some part of this world giving clinics, and all they wanted to know about was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Magic Johnson and the Los Angeles Lakers and Showtime. So it was like the Beatles when you came into town, and I don't even know what it was like for the Beatles because I didn't know what kind of acceptance they got from crowds and stuff, but the Lakers were special.
How did you feel knowing that some of the biggest stars in Los Angeles, like Denzel and Jack, they would all come to the Forum and they would be in awe of you and your Lakers?
It was an instant marriage, Showtime with Hollywood, but those Hollywood stars who came, they were sincere. They were rabid fans. If they had to sit in the 10th row, I think they would. But, we're selling Showtime. We had them right down there in front, and I think that's what Jerry Buss wanted. And as much as I got the reputation of being this dresser, and I looked the Showtime part and everything, they wanted me to coach. They wanted me to help the team win. They didn't want me to come out there and be a pretty boy. And I never felt that. So when I went out on the court, I wasn't always kibitzing with those stars in the front row. They may try to kibitz with me, but I respected them, and I wanted to make sure I was doing my job, with the team and getting wins and making everybody happy.
One of your objectives when you took over as coach was not only just to win and win championships, but to beat the Celtics.
Well, we inherited that one, Jim. Even though I'm Irish and I use the shamrock, as a little emoji when I throw it out to people as good luck. I don't believe in those leprechauns on those hoops, back in Boston, but I was like anybody else that was part of the Laker organization because of all those defeats back in the 60s. It was left to us in the 80s to finally get that albatross off our back. And it took to 1985 to get it. And that was about as fierce a rivalry, as competitive a rivalry, as respectful and disrespectful rivalry as I've ever been part of. And I think a lot of it came down to we knew how good they were. They knew how good we were. Didn't make any difference who insulted whoever. Whoever won ended up with the last talk, and you had to live with that trash talk all summer.
When the Lakers win, this whole city takes on a different aura. There's a different look. Things seem to be more clear when the Lakers win. You all remember that.
Yes. Yeah, I remember. You talking about the parade?
Yes.
And when I got up at the podium and said something?
I know exactly what you said. You said, I'm grateful to be alive and living in Los Angeles, and I'm guaranteeing next year we're going to win it again.
As soon as we won in '87, I knew what I was going to say. It wasn't some kind of amateur, which has been depicted by the media at time, some kind of ploy. I meant it. When people, set goals for themselves and they let people know what they are, it puts pressure on them to do it. Players didn't like it. They let me know about it. And once the players let me know they didn't like it, that's when I doubled and tripled down on it. Because now I knew, I sort of captured their attention about, okay, guys, you really want to be great? You want to win? You want to be, thought of as one of the great teams in the history of the game to win back-to-back titles? And it hadn't been done for 20 years? Well, we're going to tell people what we're going to do, and we're going to go out there and do it. And so that was my motivation. I guaranteed that one. And when I stepped up to the microphone, after we had won the second championship in a row, and Brent Musburger was about ready to put a microphone in my mouth to say, hey, well, Coach, are you going to? Kareem stuck a towel in my mouth. Yeah. And he said, there ain't going to be any of that in my last year, Pat. So I'm glad I did it. Maybe it had something to do with it, us winning, but I'd do it again if I had to.
A great motivator, a terrific individual, a fabulous coach, and man, he had that form rocking and rolling.
I was in elementary, and I remember that parade. Wasn't it on the steps of City Hall? And afterwards, they're there, and you see the sea of people. But Ryle was always smooth. First coach, I remember having the slick back hair, and it was totally 80s, but he was fired up in the way that he is. People forget that he was a heck of a player at Kentucky. Mm-hmm. And Michael Thompson tells stories about the practices that they had. But that parade, I remember the year before he made the guarantee, we're going to win it, and everybody, whoa, what's going on here? And then the next year, didn't they put duct tape over his mouth to make sure that was happening?
And a towel in his mouth. Yeah.
There it is. It's cool. That was good right there, Jim.
He loved to have people think they were Hollywood and stuff like that. But it was just the opposite when they got on the floor.
Yeah, they were. I remember Byron Scott talking about how hard their practices were when Byron came over to coach the Lakers. He said, we're not going to practice the way that Riley had us in the 80s because you can't do that anymore. They were running them to the ground. And then they had that great photo shoot on a yacht in the marina. Right? That was Hollywood right there. Yeah. But they were blue-collar workers, and the players that they had in the 80s going at it with the...
And champions and legends, that's for sure.
Thanks for watching Legends on SportsCentral. The law offices of Jacob Emrani are proud to support the team who built the basketball dynasty here in Los Angeles. The legendary team at calljacob.com are here for you 24/7.